Chapter 6. Finally, we're going to talk about the armor of God, and if we still have time, a talk about the theology, the bigger theology of Ephesians. No? And so, ayan, three divisions of chapter 6, parents, children, slaves, and masters, the armor of God, and then closing remarks, 6:21. So still on household codes, following the um the command to husbands and wives, no? We should see yung household codes, given that slaves and no, slaves were considered part of the family, di ba? So by Darrell Buck, there is a series of relationships: wives, husbands, children, parents, slaves, masters. In each case, a mutual ordering is present, but in a way where power is not abused and sensitivity is urged. When believers have mutual regard for one another, the activities of life can advance. Such codes appear in various texts. Even Colossians 4, meron ding household codes in 1 Timothy 2 and then 1 Peter 2. So the context of Ephesian households. Gordon P. says, culture in general, some assumptions, this word culture is sometimes used in a way that suggests that there is an oathness, not to culture, but that is an illusion. Siguro, exactly what Pastor John just asked a while ago. No, is the letter to the Corinthians ought to be universalized, no? And so we raise that question also here sa Ephesian Church, no? Are we also to universalize it, given that we should say yung description ng women in Ephesians are stronger, no? Compared to other cultures within sabihin natin male dominated communities. The three basic assumptions, no, in the cultural is that in the Greco-Roman word, honor, shame, patronage, and kinship. The concept of honor and shame ruled everything. Honor or its opposite, disgrace, was regularly the basis for most moral appeal. A common sense as to what was honorable or shameful was the fabric that held Greco-Roman together. Patronage refers to the mutual relationship that existed between unequals, in which each was understood to benefit the other. Patronage was predicated on the reality of a world that was bottom heavy, where the top few percent were the elite or privileged, and where the rest of humankind was rather totally dependent on being in good standing with the patron. Kinship comes out of patronage, in the sense that to survive, people needed to be in some kind of relationship with others, especially within a family. But there is also one of the difficulties we face when we come to the house rules in Ephesians, because it assumes a privileged household, and by the time of Paul, especially in the larger cities, the majority of people would not have been attached to a household, but they would have lived in the large insulae apartments. No? A Greek household would enjoy a domus or a villa, in which the privileged few, people like Philemon of Colossae, or Stephanas and Gaius of Corinth, lived. This is clearly the kind of household presupposed by Paul in this passage. So we shall begin with the household itself. By law, the man or the paterfamilia was the master of his household. Although he did not necessarily exercise it to a full way, under Roman law, his rule was absolute. So he was permitted to beat his own children, no? In the sense that none of the others in the household had legal matters to redress. Of course, that's not advisable, di ba? Usually, but not always, the paterfamilias required the household to service gods, since the gods were looked upon as a responsible for the order. So it's the men who perform the religious duties in the home, including yung pagan practices. Marketplaces and council halls, law courts, gathering, and my meetings were a large number of people assembled, and open air with full scope and discussion and action. All these are suitable to men both in war and peace. Now, women in ancient households. So what was it meant for a woman to enter such a household as a wife? We know from a large number of census lists from Egypt that the average age a man when he married was 30, and the woman's age was less than 18. She thus entered this household as a teenager whom he had also to educate. No, the husband has to educate his own wife because education was reserved only for the men. The reason for marriage was not love in our usual sense, but to bear legitimate children or duties, no? To keep the family line going. Failure to bear children, especially sons, was often a cause for divorce. Most men, although not all, were promiscuous. No? Demosthenes claims, mistresses we keep for the sake of pleasure, concubines for the daily care of the body, but wives to bear us legitimate children. Some wives, therefore, were promiscuous as well. No? Although they have to be discreet kasi nga, they married sila, di ba? And it will cause change. Inequality in ancient societies. In this kind of household, the idea that men and women might be equal partners in marriage simply did not exist. Evidence for this can be seen in meals, which in all cultures serve as the great equalizer. In the Greek world, a woman scarcely ever joined her husband and his friend at meals. If she did not recline at table, no? But she sat on a bench at the end, and she was expected to leave after eating when the conversation took a more public turn. Slaves, of course, did all the work, both menial and clerical, including tutoring the children. Slavery was not based on race, but initially on conquest in war, and eventually on economic need. So two types means how people are enslaved. One, defeated by the army, or number two, because of debt, they have nothing to pay, so they would fall under slavery. Pater familia in ancient societies is precisely because religion was regularly practiced in a household that when such a householder became a follower of Christ, his familia should also, as a matter of course, follow Christ. No? Dala-dala na. When thus the familia, which you have no exact equivalent, angkan in Tagalog, which consisted both of blood relatives and all those attached to the household, both slave and freed person. So they have, when a father converts, so the entire household becomes follows the same religion. And because there were already a semi-public aspect to the home, it also then became a place where many from outside the household would keep and join in the worship, thereby creating a new kind of kinship where Christ was the pater familia of many Christian households. So the Christian household episode. So what in the end is that makes our present text so radically countercultural? What Paul obviously did not do was to demolish the structures and create new ones. No? He liberally allowed it. What was radically lay in his urging with those who are filled with the Spirit and worship Christ as Lord to have totally transformed relationship with the household.